Okay. And so once again, just on the chance that there are people who would like to use a more network marketing specific presentation, then here will be an example of that among the many, many, many examples of describing our message almost entirely from the product standpoint, because we now find ourselves on the cusp of this global adoption of AI. All those things being said, then I'm going to describe it a little bit differently this particular time. It's not a different set of facts at all. It's another way of viewing those same set of facts. So who exactly am I? I am Randy Schrader, and I have been among the most successful people in the world in creating distribution and therefore earning royalties in the direct selling or network marketing industry for the last 35 years. I've come to understand that there are, in fact, 5 elements that are required for success. There is no question about what those elements are. There are 5 elements required for success. And there are a series of behaviors that are required to take those elements, multiply them by the behaviors to produce distribution, which in turn produces royalties for those who set that cascade of activities in motion. There are, in fact, 5 elements that are required for success in a venture such as this. As I indicated, this is not a something that might be. These are the 5 elements that are required for success. And the first of those 5 elements is a product or a group of products that matters to people. Over the course of the last several weeks, what have we been doing? We've been talking almost exclusively. In fact, I would say exclusively. I'm going to get myself a black pen. That works better. We've been talking almost or perhaps exclusively about the product itself and the opportunity created by the product. Let me tell you the things that must be in place for a product to work in a direct selling company. Number one, the product must have the capacity to provoke an emotional response. How can we provoke an emotional response? Well, if we change the way that a person looks for the better, that provokes emotional response. If we change the way they feel for the better, that provokes emotional response. If we change the way they feel about themselves, that provokes emotional response. If we improve their health, if some combination of these things makes them more happy, that'll provoke emotional response, and they will talk about it. And so if the first thing that's required for success is a product or service that provokes emotional response, then let's consider whether Lev AI and whether artificial intelligence in fact does that. The answer is clearly and obviously yes. My gosh, all we have to do is send one video clip of ourselves speaking in a language that our friend, our family member knows we don't speak, and that provokes an emotional response. It does. It provokes a response among that person. It provokes a response among us. What else would the first factor must be that it provokes an emotional response. The second factor must be that there be some degree of uniqueness to it. If you can acquire something just like it someplace else for the same amount or less money, then what is the draw? What is the purpose? There must be some degree of uniqueness to it. Now here, clearly and obviously, we've described Lev AI as being the catalyst ingredient in this recipe, this market basket of readily available artificial intelligence solutions that are out there. The Lev AI solution is what? It is to be a catalyst, to be the one ingredient that brings everything together to make it accessible for the masses. Is there a degree of uniqueness there? Yes, there is a complete degree of uniqueness. And how are we doing from a pricing standpoint? Can you acquire what we sell someplace else for less money? No, you cannot. And so from a product standpoint, provoke an emotional response, have some uniqueness in the marketplace that is easy to articulate. What must occur next is that once one becomes a user of that product, what is the degree of stickiness to it? In other words, if I use it once, am I likely to use it again? We're not in a simple direct selling business where we seek to sell a product today and then go and find another customer to sell a product to tomorrow. Our business is to sell a product to a person one time with the anticipation of having there being ongoing, almost never-ending use of that product. Well, each of you just stop and ask yourself this question. Have you ever changed your cell phone service? Probably so. Have you changed it a lot of times? Probably not. Have you changed it in the last 3 years, the last 5 years, the last decade? I have not. Once one establishes distribution for a technologically laden product, for a product that is tech-based, one that is digital, when one establishes distribution for it, then you see the power of the incumbency reflect itself far more dramatically than in a physical, tangible product. And when I say the power of the incumbency, what am I referring to? It's the simple truth that the person who currently holds office has an easier time retaining that office than the person trying to unseat them. That's why many societies have term limits so that one person cannot use that power of incumbency to in fact turn into a lifelong ruler. Well, what we do seek to do is turn into a lifelong product that is used But once again, ask yourself the question, how frequently do you change your long distance phone service? How frequently do you change your internet provider service? That is how frequently one will change or add to or amend their choices with the utilization of AI. So what we produce is a product that matters to people, a product that matters to more people than anything we've ever represented. Instead of 3%, 5%, 7%, 10% of the humans, of the population of the society, it is literally everybody. Do we have a degree of uniqueness? Yes, we do. We are the catalyst ingredient that brings things together. Once one becomes a subscriber to an effective service, we know that this will create a much, much, much more stable income stream over time. And so from a product standpoint, does the product fit the mold that has always been required for me to have the kind of financial successes that I've had? The answer is yes. And does it fit it specifically and exactly from a network marketing standpoint? Not just from, and when I say not just from, but does it fit from a network marketing standpoint? We know that it fits from an AI standpoint. Does it fit from a network marketing standpoint? The answer is yes. That's the first element required for success. The second element that is required for success is a company that can execute. And so here we talk about the ability of our company to scale up, to ramp up quickly. Why? For two reasons, principally. One, because the owner of the company, the principal owner, is a man named Terry LaCour. And LaCour Enterprises are the global service provider for this company. So we have, under the ownership of Terry LaCour, LaCour Enterprises, we have access to financial, we have access to the capital that is required to grow. And because the capital that is required to grow is available, we also have access to management. Witness the recent hiring of my son Blake, a highly sought after executive in the network marketing space, and not just in network marketing, but in e-commerce, and in recent years in the ending of the prohibition of cannabis. So if one has adequate financial resources, then by definition, that makes it possible to have adequate management resources if the capital structure is willing to get out of the way and let management run the business. And here I absolutely love the fact that Terry LaCour has proven an ability over the last 35 years to operate a host of companies in the micro enterprise world, to operate under his imprimatur, to hire the very best management to operate in each individual company, and to have each company be part of an overall whole, but each one extraordinarily successful on its own. That is the future of Lev AI. And so from a product standpoint, change the way the person looks, feels about themselves, provoke emotional response, create a situation where one cannot easily replace that which we sell tomorrow. That creates stickiness, create a subscription base, a product they cannot acquire elsewhere for less money, a subscription base, maybe once every 5 years, 10 years, or sometimes 20 or 30 years. I'm willing to bet my mom hasn't changed her phone service in 80 years, really. However long phone service has existed, that's how long I believe she's used the same provider. Once we establish distribution for a digital product that meets the need of the consumer, it is a much, much, much more sticky consumer, therefore creating a much more reliable residual income stream than a physical, tangible product in the nutrition or personal care industry of the food. So first, a product or service that matters to people. Second, a company that can execute. We're witnessing it as we speak. Has the immediate rollout been perfect? No, there's no such thing as that. But the rollout since Wednesday of this past week, when we introduced the solutions, the AI solutions for the first time, it's been incredible. More than 85% or 82% of all credit cards being successfully processed the first time. Folks, remember that whenever a new company launches, there are all kinds of challenges that go along with it. Why can we have 82% of all first-time orders being processed successfully? Because we are part of the core enterprises companies. Where we stand alone without having those financial resources, it would be a far, far, far smaller percentage. So a product that matters to people, that product being brought to market by a company that has the ability to execute. The third element that is required for success is timing. Timing that is clear, that is obvious, that is beyond refute. Well, so let's think about this for a second. And I'm going to think about it first from the standpoint of what I have always been taught. This is company, I'm going to get bigger, bolder, darker pens, especially if I'm ever going to do an old-fashioned presentation again like this one. I got to have bigger, bolder, darker pens. The next element that's required for success is timing. And I just want to take you all on a walk down memory lane. In fact, for right now, I'm just going to stop this. Hold on here. Hold on. I'll stop the screen share. Maybe get a little better. There we go. Take you on a little walk down memory lane. Let's go all the way back to February 1st. We'll take you on a walk down memory lane, and we're going to go all the way back to February 1st of 1990. On February 1st of 1990, for the first time, a leader in the network marketing industry. Remember again, this conversation being targeted more specifically towards the network marketing opportunity for delivering the Lev AI product to the marketplace, recognizing that we will have as many people as we have in our business. That's the number of individual unique focal points that we will have. But certainly I can understand, I can see that we will have a portion of our business that will be entirely customer centric, that will not be looking to build in depth. I was reminded this morning when I woke up that there's a whole lot of fantastic people out there who have grown accustomed to building depth. That's what they know how to do. That's what their wheelhouse is. And to bring this into the focus, the context of that which this leadership group knows and understands, I believe is a good thing to do, in addition to breaking into the new, fresh ground of what AI can do for us. I was shown this chart. And what I was taught was that all companies start on the bottom left-hand corner of that graph, and that the vast majority of those companies will suffer an early death. They will not get off the ground floor. Then I was taught that there will be a percentage of companies that will survive, but they will not thrive. They'll never get big enough fast enough to make anybody any real money, but they'll kind of always be out there. And then I was taught that every once in a while, but not so often, a company would come along whose product or service or opportunity was so profound that it would find a way to outrun that risk of an early death. In this case, the product idea itself was so profound that it was able to attract the attention and therefore the investment of who? Of Terry LaCour. And so think about it for a second. Do companies have early death if they have money still? Isn't it true that companies only have early deaths when they don't have money anymore? We've completely eliminated the possibility of an early death because though we are a startup operating at the bottom left-hand corner of the graph, we operate under the umbrella of Terry LaCour Enterprises. Therefore, that first possibility doesn't exist. Some companies just survive, but they don't thrive. They don't capture enough people's imagination soon enough to gain any traction, and they don't go anywhere. Well, folks, we're 4 days in here, 5 days, whatever it is, and we already won that race. We have 40,000 members around the world. And now our task is to cause an increasing percentage of the people who enrolled during the pre-market environment to understand what they enrolled for, to act upon it, and to begin creating business as opposed to just rushing towards this "you can be first" message, which, by the way, is reflective of the fact that it's a network marketing company that still has been out there. You can be first, you can be first, you can be first. You can be first doesn't matter unless the company lasts. And so what we have is this catalyst ingredient inside our own company that is what? The catalyst ingredient is money that makes it possible for us to not worry about the early death, and that's already made it possible for us to bring to market such extraordinary services in such a short period of time that we already have gathered so much traction that it can't be this. And so now, folks, from a timing perspective, bringing it all the way back to the basic network marketing model, not talking about the fact that there are going to be trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars transacted in the AI industry, not talking about the fact that this is more profound than fire, electricity, or anything we've seen in the past. Just bringing it all the way back to typical network marketing truth. What is the typical network marketing truth? It is that if one brings a product to market, an idea to market that captures the imagination of the right kind of leadership early in its development, if we can then tie that the product idea that attracted the capital, the combination of the product and the capital, the confidence in management is what attracts leadership from the direct selling industry. And that combination of things is what ignites a timing moment. We're living in one of those moments right now. Whether or not you choose to act upon it, we are now living in one of those moments, triggered by what? The three ingredients that made it happen. A product idea that attracted capital, capital that could hire management, product, capital, management that attracts leadership in the network marketing industry, and distribution is created. And so what have I done for all these many years? I've engaged in what I've long been taught was a proved and predictable pattern of activities. I was taught there's no luck, there's no guesswork. If we do A, we get B, and if we do B, we get C. And if we don't, we don't. And that if we engaged in that proved predictable pattern of activities, that would result in the creation of an ever-expanding and potentially limitless web of consumers or users of the service. And the person or the people, the leadership group who set in motion that cascade of activities, creating that web of ever expanding, potentially limitless web of consumers or users of the service, and those people, that leadership group who came together as a result of these factors, who created the distribution, they earn royalties on it, potentially long-term royalties. That is the nature of our business. That then leads us to the fourth element, which is the compensation plan. Because if we are to earn royalties, then the compensation plan must provoke certain behaviors. Coming back over to time, all companies start on the bottom left-hand corner of the graph. Our company is literally at that bottom left-hand corner. Remember, the great entrepreneurial dance is this. The great entrepreneurial dance is to identify a way to get as close as one possibly can to the point of origin and yet mitigate the risks that are typically a part and parcel of that positioning. I know a lot of people who, in their urgency and excitement about being early in the development of the game, early in the development of the business, they've been unable to mitigate these risks. Now, unfortunately, they've let their circle of influence off one cliff, two cliffs, three cliffs, four, and their circle of influence says, cliffs with you, we'll jump no more. So we need to find a way to mitigate these risks because our single most precious asset is what? It is our circle of influence, those that we have and those that we will gain. And so we completely mitigate the risks. We mitigate the risks in actually a couple of ways. First, I think it would be very hard. You'd have to struggle to find a way to fail with a product offering that is so completely right for the moment. You'd have to do literally everything wrong. The product offering is so profound, it is so powerful that it will enable this company to overcome any mistakes it might make. I think there aren't going to be too many. The first element required is that's clearly and obviously it is there, a company that can execute. Now we come to this moment of timing. We are literally in the first week. And what I was taught all those years ago is that it is when a company's product, service, idea, concept stops being obscure and starts to become popularized, that is when this significant transition takes place. It stops being obscure, it starts to become popularized. This next line that I've drawn behind it, this is the consumption line that fills in behind the recruiting line. Going back to plain old network marketing terms. We recruit, we recruit, we recruit. Suddenly, a critical mass is built. A critical mass, typically indicated by something in the neighborhood of $4, $5, $6 million in monthly sales. That $4, $5, $6 million in monthly sales, laid across most network marketing companies' compensation plans, triggers $2-3 million in income being distributed among people. When you have $2 or $3 million in monthly income being distributed among people in a relatively confined geographic space. This is one of the places where the industry changed. Years ago, when I got in the industry, most companies did all of their volume in a specific geographic market first and then grew market by market. Now, in the internet age, in the digital age, we tend to open everywhere all over the world. And so what used to create a critical mass, that would be $4 or $5 or $6 million in sales, go back to the Herbalife days, the New Skin days. If one had $4 or $5 or $6 million in monthly sales, that would all be in one nation. At the outset, that would be the United States. And that would be enough to create chatter. Well, now we deliver a message all over the world. And because we don't have that bed of coals that is confined, that is close together, there are all these individual sparks that are all over the place. You see, it takes a lot more than $4 or $5 or $6 million in monthly sales to create that critical mass that causes people to say, that deal is hot. I must be a part of that. Not because of what is coming, but because of what is. I see those proofs of income. See, that's what creates that critical mass that causes the company to stop being small and start being big. Now, we roll out a global enterprise, obviously now active in the United States and Canada, one day this week, active in the rest of the world. Critical mass for our company is not going to be $4 or $5 or $6 million in monthly sales. It's going to be $25 or $30 million in monthly sales. Why? Because it is being spread over the entire planet as opposed to in a confined period. Now, that $25 or $30 million in monthly sales in our company, it will not surprise me at all if that is accomplished in what has been the historic window. Typically, the market is impatient. If a company doesn't go from the point of origin to that point of the bed of coals being in place, the pot starting to be warm and beginning to boil a little bit. Typically, if that doesn't happen in about a 4-year period of time, you can almost forget it because the market is impatient. Either it captures people's imagination and it goes someplace, or it does not. It becomes resigned to one of the low growth, slow growth companies. In this case, while this is a message more rooted in my direct selling network marketing background than the advent of AI, the advent of AI is the product gives rise to our entire opportunity. And what we have heard is what? All the projections being made by extremely bright minds that 4 years from now, what did I say? Typically 4 years is the amount of time that is allotted. That's how much time is given for a company to get traction, for the market to pay attention to it. Otherwise, it gets increasingly difficult, not easier. Well, all the projections are that 4 years from now, more than 90% of planet Earth has embraced AI. See, it happens to fit dead exactly into the window of time that would historically be in the direct selling industry. there will be such a tremendous expansion. But what will occur, and this is important for those of you who've been around network marketing, we've always taught this idea that we want to have momentum. My friend Rick Walsh talks about momentum quite a bit. Momentum is a historic measure in the network marketing industry when it goes into this window where it goes straight up. In the stock market, that would be described as a parabolic move. The bad news is that behind parabolic moves or behind momentum is always a steep decline. The bubble bursts, whatever bursts it. That's like a real estate bubble. That is like the stock market getting ahead of itself. What I really don't want to do, I do not want to provoke momentum. Because what is momentum? Momentum is what Ben Bernanke described years ago as irrational exuberance. What I want to do is create a leadership structure that falls in behind the slope of whatever our sales are. If our sales get very far ahead of our leadership structure, then instead of periodic corrections, we will have a crash. I have no interest in that, and I know you don't either. Well, let's come back again and talk about the specific timing of the opportunity. Today, you find yourself at the absolute genesis, at the cusp, at the beginning of what, based on every single thing I have seen, known, lived, and experienced in the direct selling industry, will become the most remarkable entry in this industry in decades. I mean, in decades. And there's nothing else out there that's remotely close. There's nothing else nothing on the horizon right now that might capture just a tiny bit of the attention that is going to be brought to this company. From a timing standpoint, this is unlike anything I've seen before. Specifically, I want to note that we don't have the limitations that have always stopped my organizational growth at certain heights. The way I've described it for years is that you shoot an arrow to the sky, it can only go so high, and it'll begin to flatten out. And when that arrow begins to flatten out, it won't just flatten out for very long, will it? It'll go up, 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 it'll flatten out, and then it will retreat. It'll retreat. It will retreat to what? It will retreat to the next point of emphasis that shoots it higher still. That's the way that it really works. And so right now, what we're doing is provoking that first wave of growth. We have successfully provoked it domestically. We'll begin provoking it over the course of the next day or two internationally. We will cause the slope of growth in the United States to increase. I don't want it to increase dramatically. Why? Because I want to create a leadership structure behind its growth so that we don't have peaks and valleys that are too steep. That is why you've seen me begun to introduce into this very, very fledgling baby organization leadership trainings that I've been doing literally every day. Why? Because I have a tremendous sense of urgency to create leadership behind the spike in volume that is occurring and that will occur in a much dramatic way over the course of the next few days. The timing is the most obvious thing I've ever seen. Do this now or do it at your financial peril. I'm sorry, that's just that plain. Do this now or do it at financial peril. Every single person you know is going to use AI, and they're going to use it whether or not you introduce them. If they are using some other version of AI, they will use an inferior product and pay a higher price for it. It is just that simple. This is the single most obvious moment of timing that I've experienced ever in my life and been alert enough to recognize it. Fourth element required for success is a compensation plan that provokes correct behaviors and that then rewards those behaviors. And so, and again, the most old-fashioned way, I will show you what exactly this comp plan does. Where is my, there we go. Once again, what are the elements required for success? First, a product that matters to people. We've talked about the dynamics of the product that must work from a network marketing standpoint. Second, a company that can execute. Third, timing that is clear, that is obvious, that is beyond review. Fourth, a compensation plan which provokes correct behaviors and then rewards those behaviors. And remember, what exactly is it that we do? We engage in a proved and predictable pattern of activities. That's what I was taught years ago. 10 steps to getting started correctly. If we engage in a proved and predictable pattern of activities, and if we have a product that meets its requirement, if the company executes, that then results in the creation of an ever-expanding, potentially limitless web of users of the product. And when you were the guide, the path, the conduit to that product use, that creates for you royalties, and the royalties are paid in the compensation plan. And so the compensation plan, so the first thing it must do is provoke correct behaviors. What is the first correct behavior? It is to recruit. Folks, let there be no misunderstanding. The number one behavior in our business is to recruit. Whether we're recruiting a member or whether we're recruiting a partner, the number one behavior is to recruit. People say, well, Randy, isn't training more important? Who are we going to train if we don't recruit somebody? No, the single most important thing is to enroll new members. A rapid flow of new member applications is what determines the slope of growth. And to the extent that we are able to create a leadership structure that has the wisdom to create a slope of growth that is as steep as it can be without separating itself in a meaningful way from the leadership that we develop. Therein, that is the intricacy, that is the magic, that's the difference in tremendous success and modest success. Compensation plan, the first compensation, by the way, I love the comp plan because of its simplicity. What is it? First, we get an acquisition bonus. This is very simple. This is 50%. They say, wait a minute, Randy, it's not really 50, is it? Well, no, it isn't. It's a 30% acquisition bonus plus 20% that goes into what? Your generation one in the unilevel in the very first month. And so the aggregate total on your client, your customer, your partner's first order is what? It is 50% because you got a 30% acquisition bonus and you got a 20% first month payout in the unilevel. And that is why when you look in your back office and you see commissions, it will show a weekly unilevel and a monthly unilevel because the weekly unilevel is including this 20%. And so in aggregate, what one gets paid when you are the conduit to someone's acquisition of the product, then it's 50. But 30% of that is truly acquisition bonus. The other 20% is Gen 1, first weekly unilevel payout. Right? And so that is first. What comes second? After we recruit, then that team member or partner, they come into this 8 generation deep block of volume. That 8 generation deep block of volume can be as wide as you want to make it. There is no limitation. It can be as wide as you want to make it. Now, our compensation plan operates to a degree like a hybrid because it wants to meet the need of the more youthful generation of home-based business and entrepreneurship is today more habitually, more consistently working on an affiliate basis, building big customer bases that are provoked of past influence, some past success. Most are building big customer bases with fewer people developing the skills of big team building in depth. We want to do both. And in fact, as I woke up this morning and I received the messages from people saying, Randy, I want you to teach me how to do a network marketing company. That's what you've taught me how to do before. I want you to show me how to use Lev AI the way that I've always worked. And somehow I could see, at least in their cases, there's been a little bit of confusion. Folks, we can function in this program exactly the way that we've always functioned, those of us who have built large, successful direct selling organizations, simply eliminating some of the abusive behaviors that have been part of our industry that have caused it to have trouble. And of course, I'm hoping that each of you has long since learned what those are and already jettisoned them. Well, anyone that you personally enroll and choose to retain on your first level. And I said, choose to retain. What's that about? Because if you want, you can place them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Compensation plan. If you have 5 legs wide, each of one has substance. And that substance means what? $20,000 in monthly business. If you have 5 legs wide, each of one has substance. That will allow you to get paid royalties on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more generations of depth. So what specifically is it that we're getting paid? Well, if a person has their very first order, their first order is either $50 or $100, then the combination of your acquisition bonus and this is going to be 50%, either 50 or 100. That is a one-time transaction component. Now, each person that makes that product acquisition, they come into your block of volume. When they come into their block of volume, they begin paying their monthly subscription. If you've retained them on generation 1, then every time they pay that monthly subscription, you'll get paid 20%. If you have chosen from business building standpoints to enroll someone and place them down line of another, then you will receive 4%. And the person, whomever you place them under, will receive the 20%. That's the way that it works. And so that is the first part of the residual part of our income, because we're getting paid again and again and again for work once done every time they continue to pay the subscription. How often will they continue to pay the subscription? There is a global mandate to adopt AI. They will pay the subscription the very same frequency they pay their phone bill. That's what we need to understand. What percentage of people that you know use the phone? That's the percentage who are going to use AI. What percentage of people you know pay their phone bill month after month after month? That's the percentage who will pay their subscription in AI. And what percentage of people change their provider frequently in their phone service? Well, none change it frequently. That's the percent who will change frequently in AI. What percentage maintain that one relationship for decades? That's the percentage who will retain it in AI. And so you see, we are building a block of consumers, utilizers of the service, and we get paid based upon their subscription. If they're generation 1, we get paid 20%. If they're in a generation in debt, we get paid 4%. And so just simple math, folks. How much money do you want to make? Well, to make math easy, you want to make $1 million a year? Take that $1 million a year and divide it by $4 in subscription, and then divide that by 12 months, and that'll tell you how many subscriptions you got to have in this block assuming not even one up here on Gen 1. And that will tell you what is the size block of volume you must create in order to produce that income that you want. What is the next income component? We know that there will be people who race, who just literally race. There'll be people who join our company today who have people beneath their 8th generation tomorrow. That will happen today. It happened yesterday. It'll happen again tomorrow. And it'll continue happening. Why? Because people understand the global mandate of AI, and a tiny, tiny, tiny snippet of people are beginning to understand that there is a superior choice. There's a company called Lev AI, bringing accessible artificial intelligence to the masses. The infinity payout does what? This is 4%. Now, just imagine erasing the bottom, just erase the bottom of that box. And if you are at the top of the plan, you've got 5 legs of 20,000, that puts you at the top of the plan. That means that your infinity payout, when this 4% stops at this block, just erase the bottom, the 4% continues. And it continues until some person in this progression is a director. That's the first director. Is what I think it's 4 legs of $5,000 a piece or something like that. When you have 4 enrollment tree legs of $5,000 a piece, now that's a director. This person starts getting 1%, and you get the other 3. And it just continues looking. So I said at the comp plan, from a direct selling standpoint, what must it do? It must provoke the correct behavior. The correct behavior is to enroll. It does it by paying 50%. The next thing that it must do is it must provoke the development of organizational structures. If it doesn't provoke the development of organizational structures, then what we would have is simply this first generation unilevel up here. That it does by creating payouts in depth. And so when we go beneath this unilevel box, when we add the infinity payout to it, then that meets that requirement. And then, of course, the big one for me, it's check match. The big. I don't know how high up is for you. I don't know what you're thinking of. Remember that in my own case, I've been to a degree spoiled, and I've had so many years, 29 consecutive years in a row, earning over $1 million in network marketing commissions. And so when today somebody brought it to my attention that it seemed like I was abandoning that which is my roots, absolutely not. That is a misunderstanding. My gosh, one of the greatest gifts from God I've ever had was being driven by circumstance into network marketing, and then realizing that which I was driven to was so much better than that from which I was fleeing. Okay. And the next part of the compensation plan is check match. Whenever anyone in your 1, 2, 3, 4 generations of enrollment tree, whenever someone earns a recruitment bonus, you will get a matching bonus. When they earn a team commission inside the unilevel, you'll get a matching bonus. When they earn an infinity payout, you'll earn a matching bonus. And whomever you are, find your place in the comp plan. If you want to make $100, $200, or $300 a month, well, you can do it with acquisition bonuses, and that will then turn into, gradually over time, that behavior will turn into a residual income of that amount because they become subscription based. If what you want to do is earn a few $1,000s per month, then I would say that focusing on building out your block of volume in the unilevel is a great place to do it. If you want to earn 10, 15, 20, then add to the mix, work deep in depth, and fully harvest the value of the infinity payout. If what you want to do is have a complete, absolute, total financial breakthrough, that is what can happen when we focus on the successes of other people, the check match. This will create larger checks than anything I've seen before. Now I can forecast that with comfort. Why? Because I understand network marketing compensation plans. I understand this one. And I understand that the magnitude of potential participants is by a factor of 1,000,000 times greater than anything I've ever done before. And the ability to build out big blocks of volume in my career, one of the best ones. I've never had more than 1,000,000 people in my business at a given point in time. Why? Because we've always been building businesses of replacement. Because a person got involved because they wanted to make money, they found out that it took work, they didn't make money fast enough. Then they found out they could buy the product someplace else for less money. And so this whole idea of building a subscription base that produces residual income has always been, it's run out of its ability for me at about that 1,000,000 person mark, because I always had to be replacing this month people who enrolled 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. That's the truth. That changes here. People don't change their service every 3 or 4 or 5 months. They just don't. They don't change their phone service ever, as long as the phone service works. They're not going to change their service here, folks. Our service works, and it works better than what they can do someplace else, and it works for a better price. So the elements required for success are what? A product that matters to people, a company that can execute, timing that is clear, that is obvious, that is beyond refute, a compensation plan which provokes correct behaviors and then properly rewards those behaviors. The fifth element that's required for success is training and support. And I can now speak to the nature of the direct selling industry. One of the reasons that I've always stayed in this business model is because the compensation plans provoke the behaviors that result in the direct and the constructive leadership hierarchies. And that's what makes it possible for the business to scale outside of the touch of a leader. So this training and support is always available in any legitimate direct sales company. And here it is at a higher level. And I'm careful when I say this, but folks, 35 years ago, I was taught a process. And that process is what has worked for me. We can do something far, far greater here together than I've ever done before because of the dynamics of what this product offering is and the nature of the global adoption mandate that is unfolding itself in front of us right now. But if we reflect only on that which I have always done, my organization has done more than $5 billion in sales, folks. More than $5 billion in sales. And I'll restate what I said a few minutes ago. I had 29 consecutive years with over $1 million in annual network marketing commissions. There are precious few ways to do that. And there are very, very, very few ways to do that when one does not have substantial capital, doesn't have big money to invest. All the reasons that I embraced direct selling in the very first time, all those things are true here. But now I will say this. 35 years ago, a guy named Nathan Ricks taught me, what I teach you is what I was taught. Folks, gaining access to the knowledge that Nathan transferred to me. If all you do is get in our network and let me transfer to you the knowledge that Nathan transferred to me, this will be the most profitable decade of your life. That was a bold statement, wasn't it? And I believe it all the way to the center of my being. That is a baseline truth, not my opinion. That is a baseline truth. And then what we seek to do is construct a leadership hierarchy. So my whole career, I've known that it's 5 elements: product, company, time, and comp plan, training, and support. I now add to that, no business will become greater than the leadership hierarchy that it creates. And so that is our primary purpose. That is my primary purpose. What is the company's purpose? Well, they deliver an incredible AI product. They deliver a structure, a concept, a comp plan, all those things. What is my purpose? What is our purpose? It is to create a proper leadership structure such that we can guide more and more and more people through the proved and predictable pattern of activities, which then turns these elements which are required for success into financial gain. Folks, that was much more like what I've done for years and years and years than what I've done in recent days in Lev AI. I believe all the way to the center of my being that we have a magic moment right here before us. And that magic moment is provoked by the fact that the future is in our hands. Before I leave this conversation, let me reflect again on the comments made by the CEO of Google, Mr. Buckeye, who said that AI is more profound than fire or electricity or anything we've done in the past. And Demis Hassabis, the head of DeepMind, stating that the difference here with AI is that it's going to be 10 times bigger than the Industrial Revolution and perhaps 10 times faster. And so if we take the concepts that have produced for me $5 billion in sales over the course of my career, and now we take those concepts and we completely don't just turbocharge them. We go from a single piston engine, 292 cc's, and we instead compare that to a rocket engine. When we take these combination of factors and we make the product the advent of AI, but then we properly leverage the other factors which have always been placed, and if we're willing to learn some lessons from the past, if we don't try to provoke overblown exuberance, if we don't try to create, quote, momentum, which is simply a parabolic growth move that will give way. Every season of growth, there's a season of leadership development such that those two lines run parallel. Then there really and truly, no kidding, is no way to define how high is up and what is the magnitude of the opportunity. Now, I thank you all for being here. I encourage your participation in our company for more reasons than you might right now imagine. Yes, if you learn how to do it well, you'll make more money. Of greater importance, once you start making more money, of greater importance will be the exact reality that you will become more. You will gather new knowledge, you'll develop new skills, you'll refine your character attributes, you'll become a higher, better version of you. And the result will be that all aspects of your life can be more positive. You can, in fact, be more happy more of the time. And it's my complete belief that you can live life in the absence of financial scarcity by being the conduit to other people's utilization of this catalyst in the AI ingredient couched within the network marketing world. Everybody, The future is bright. Tonight, we'll have a business presentation at 9 o'clock. I'd like nothing more than to help you bring an important candidate. Every candidate's important. And maybe the important candidate you need to bring is you. If you've not yet upgraded your account and begun taking action, then perhaps you are the candidate you need to bring to tonight's presentation. Let's set the ball in motion. Everybody, God bless you. Have the best day in history, and I will see you along the way.